it's hard for us because we could have walked away. The pain that we went through in our relationship, we absolutely could have walked away.
It would have been easier and harder. One of the things that has been on your mind has been something that we'll call warring hearts. What does that mean to you, a warring heart? W-A-R-R-I-N-G.
So what I'm thinking of specifically is someone that is easily provoked. Little things constantly build up. And because of the story that you have about your spouse, it can create feelings of admiration and love and connection, or it can create feelings of frustration and disgust and animosity.
Contempt.
Yeah.
So really it's all about the stories that we're telling ourselves about our spouse.
Right. Because if you have this idea, if I have an idea for you saying that you are wanting to constantly berate me, or that you're constantly putting me down, or that you don't trust me, that you don't believe in me, that you don't, whatever the story is, it doesn't matter what it is, that if that's the story that I'm telling about you, then every interaction that we have is going to be seen through that filter. So you could be saying something really powerful to me, like really positive and encouraging to me. But if I'm seeing it through this filtered lens of you don't believe in me and you don't trust that I can accomplish things and that sort of stuff, I'm going to see that as patronizing. I'm going to see that as you're being sarcastic or whatever, because that's the filter in which it's coming from.
If I see things always positively, just the reverse, then it doesn't matter how you say things, then I'm going to believe that you're saying it to me in a positive light.
Right.
Unless I get in my grungies, of course,
Right.
and, go down that path. But
if you have that, we've talked about this in past conversations. If I'm seeing you in your best self, if I am taking, no matter how you're showing up, and if I'm looking at you through the lens of who you are in your most powerful sense, and then you start being a putz, then it's like, you're just having a bad day. It's just a bad moment. It's just a bad, situation or whatever. You're not being very kind right now. But I can address it that way because it's addressing a situation instead of addressing a character.
So if we look at warring hearts, I guess you really wanted to talk about Israel. I really didn't want to. But if you look at traditionally, just from, this has been a war that's been going on in their hearts for ages,
millennia,
for thousands of years, and it all stems from a belief. This land was stolen from us, or you stole, or you've taken it from us and we're taking it back, or whatever it is.
Whatever the
so in the Palestinians and the Israelis have this war in their hearts for each other because they have a foundational belief. Whether it's true or not true is not the issue. They have an issue with each other because of this belief about whatever whatever wrong has been done.
Right.
And so because of that wrong that's been done that they cannot, will not, and refuse to forgive each other about, there's absolutely never going to be peace.
Right.
And the same thing happens in our relationships. If we choose to believe something that is true or not true, it's really irrelevant what it is, whether there's truth in the issue or not.
Right.
It's whatever we choose to believe. You can change from having a warring heart to having a peaceful heart.
Right. And I think that comes through the atonement of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. I
feel like that has been the biggest power, that it's outside of us, because we as humans are naturally selfish. We're naturally taking care of our own needs and our own desires and our own things first. That's who we're thinking about first. And it's not until we allow that power to come into our hearts and to change our natures that allows us to heal our relationships.
Yep.
And I feel like, we've had some conversations with people that were wanting to change their relationship and were putting in some effort, but when they recognized how much work it was going to take, they walked away. And that's really hard. It's hard for us because we could have walked away. The pain that we went through in our relationship, we absolutely could have walked away.
Oh,
And that makes me
that would
so
have been
sad.
easier. It would have been easier and harder.
Right.
Because the reality is, no matter who walks away from what relationship, minus the ones that are abusive,
Right.
aside from those, so we're talking about 98%, 95% of relationships
Of
that
some made
walk
up
away.
statistic.
Yeah, I'm making up the statistic. Well, 27% of statistics are made up on the spot. So I don't know what the number is, but there's a huge number of people who leave relationships, and the majority of them are not because of abuse. It's because of
Right.
some other issue that they've had,
Unreconcilable differences, whatever they may be.
whatever that might be. They couldn't figure out how to put the toilet paper on the roll. They couldn't figure out how to squeeze the toilet paper, and these people squeeze the toilet paper or brush their toothpaste. They couldn't figure out how to squeeze the toothpaste, how to put the roll of toilet paper this way or this way. And those are irreconcilable differences. Let's be honest. The majority of them, those irreconcilable differences, it's because they had warring hearts, not because they had some major, major problem. Most of the issues are minor problems that they have changed from molehills into mountains and pretended that they were all encompassing and that they could not be with that person any longer. Let me ask a question. If you have felt that way about your spouse before, have you ever asked the question, what if my belief about whatever he or she is doing, what if it's not true?
That takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility to be willing to do that because we want to be right, right? And
But
the way
what if
that our
I'm
brains,
wrong?
I know exactly. Wouldn't it be great news to be wrong about your spouse and to then see them in this light of understanding, of recognizing, oh my word, I get where they're coming from and I get why they would show up that way. And then
So,
being able to have compassion and grace for them.
absolutely. So, I'm in the process right now of reading a book. Fantastic book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. It's by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And in this book, it's amazing because Dan is talking, I believe it's Dan, and he's talking about how, the past that I have is very different than her past, even though we may have lived the past together. And the great thing about the past is that she can't rewrite my past and I can't rewrite hers, but I can certainly rewrite my own past. Now, what does that really mean? Can I change the actual events that occurred? No, absolutely not. Those events occurred. However, my memory of those events may be wrong. In fact, my mom was going through some of her own handwritten journals and she was digitizing them. And as she was going through those journals, she came across a story and she said, "Well, wait a second. That's not how it happened." Her memory was different than what she had written down in the moment that that event occurred. And she was convinced that her memory of the event was accurate. Well, she's been telling the story wrong all these years. Whatever the story is, I don't remember what it is, but essentially her memory rewrote the event. So that's a powerful tool right there. We can rewrite our memory of the event or the meaning of the event to us. In fact, one of the things that they talked about that I didn't realize, I've been doing this for years, is they talked about going back and looking at past experiences and learning new lessons from those experiences from today's perspective. And this has been something I've talked about for a long time, of how powerful it is to go back 10 years ago at this one event and relook at it and go, well, what else can I learn from it? What can I extract from it? It also takes a lot of humility to take a look back at that event and say, what if I was wrong in my original assessment of that event?
Yeah.
So I remember it a certain way. Can I learn something different? What can I learn differently from that event?
Mm-hmm.
Can I change my memory of the event? Absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's great power in that. In fact, most people who have experienced something very, very difficult have then looked back at that event with gratitude because of all the lessons they can extract from that event when they don't pretend they're a victim for the event.
Right. And that whole, and it's, you were a victim in the moment, but you can grow from that experience and not be a victim anymore. That, if you've been a victim of abuse or things like that, that you absolutely were a victim, but you don't have to be victimized, meaning that you don't have to stay in a mindset that you have no control, because
And
you absolutely have control over how you respond to events.
correct. And let's be clear. An event that occurred to somebody does not make you a victim. Abuse makes you a victim.
That's what I'm talking about
But
specifically.
only in that event, only in an abusive situation are you a victim. Everybody else, you can pretend you're a victim, but you're not. So everybody else who there was not abuse occurring to you, you can feel bad and you can feel like you're a victim. That's why I use the word pretend to be a victim a lot, because 90% or whatever made up statistic it is, most of the people that are out there are not actual victims. There are a lot of people who have gone through victim situations, but those are only abuse.
Being a victim is a very disempowering, weak state.
You
And
don't
it's
have any
only by being
control.
right, and it's only by being in that victim state that you don't have control over your life. You don't have control over your thoughts, your feelings, your all those things. And when you realize and recognize the power that you do have,
You're no longer a victim.
you're no longer a victim, and like you have choices and opportunities that open up when you no longer view your past experiences in that light, or your current experiences. Like for instance, right now, there's war happening in the world. They are being victimized because they're, you know, someone shooting grenades at you. You didn't cause that.
I guess war would be another situation where you could be a victim, but that's some sort of abuse,
Of course,
you know,
anytime anybody's trying to operate,
dominate.
dominate, that sort of thing, whatnot, yes, you can. But what's powerful in this is that this reminds me of, Viktor Frankl in the search for man's search for meaning. His experience in being in the concentration camps, like just horrific situation of having his wife murdered and then having to live day by day and seeing people die and being in disease and being in torturous situations and lack of food and comfort and warmth and all those things, of how treacherous that can be on a person's psyche. And yet he saw the power in not being a victim of it and was able to conquer that and gain so much insight into the power that we as humans have in order to overcome really, really hard things.
My understanding of Viktor Frankl in that book is that when the experience first started, is that he actually said, I am going to learn as much as I possibly can out of this horrific experience so that I can share what I've learned in a book. Man, that is a
Talk about a future thinking
perspective, because what if everything you experience in your life you could write into a book and uplift others because of your experiences, but not because of the experiences that you've had?
No, because if the experiences themselves do not make you a stronger character,
Exactly.
it's how you
It's your
respond to those experiences.
it's your perspective of
Mhm.
those experiences. If you went through every single experience with the mentality, there is something magnificent for me to learn from this experience. This experience is happening for me, not to me. Man, that's powerful thinking. And I think that if you look at your relationship, you can also have that same perspective. What can I learn from this experience? What can this experience do for me
And
and not to me?
yeah, and can I look at my spouse as the amazing person that they are and look to their potential and look to their abilities and talents and all the good things that they are? Can I look to that? And even though they are not being that in this moment, can I see them from that perspective and be willing to ask questions, to get curious as to why they're showing up the way that they are currently, and to
and
get to the
not
bottom of it and
and
not make
not in an
assumptions.
not in an accusatory
Right.
fashion, but in
Mm-hmm.
a fashion of, like Melanie said, being curious and trying to find out where they're coming from.
Like
Where are
a
they
dialogue,
operating from? Are they operating out of fear, out of anger, out of frustration, out of hunger? What is it?
like a dialogue that we've done that has been helpful for us is that, and guys, we make mistakes. We do a
No, no,
lot of
no, no.
do-overs all the time.
We are perfect.
Yeah.
We are so
Hang
good.
around us for 10 minutes and you'll see that we're not. So anyway, um, but a dialogue that has helped us is that when we are in a situation of us not showing up in our best light, is saying, hey, are you okay? This is not in character of who you are. The way that you're showing up right now is not in character of who you are. What's going on? How can I support you?
Do you want to continue showing up this way? And sometimes we stay in our grungies and we want to.
That is
And
true.
sometimes we come out of it and we say, you know what, you're right. I'm sorry, I need some food. I
Or
need a
I need some
nap,
sleep, or I need some love, or
whatever it is.
whatever.
So we're going to leave you on that note. We love you.
See you later.